Hey, and welcome back to another video. My name is Felix, and this is Eastwood Fab. Today, we're going to do the daunting task. Well, it shouldn't be that bad. But as we all know, with some of our large printers, or any non-monochrome LCD printer, you're going to have to replace the LCD screen. So particularly what we're going to go over today is the standard Peopoly Phenom. I'm not sure what the others entail, but I think they're pretty straightforward. But for this one, we're going to replace it. I ran this for probably about 800 hours. I didn't realize I wasn't keeping track of how many hours. That's something you probably want to do, and that's what I'm doing now, is that I keep track of how many hours that I'm using, and then I keep an eye on the LCD screen because when you look at the LCD screen, you can see when it goes bad. Mine's not showing any cases of that other than in its printing. I'm showing a little bit of, I'm calling them cornflakes in my supports. The print's coming out okay, but there's a lot of other stuff going on, and I think that just means that the LCD is going. So I figured 800 hours later, it's probably time to change it. So some of the things that you're going to need. I went ahead and I have one of these. This is has a magnetized bottom on it to put the screws in. Something for millimeter sized Allen head screw set. You could also use something like this. When it comes to tape, there's a lot of different opinions on it. I even asked Peopoly regarding which tape to use, and I purchased it. And this is the high grade. It blocks all the UV through it. But after looking at it, I'm not convinced I'm going to use it, and some of the other users on the Facebook group swore that light was getting through and affecting their print quality. So I'm going to go with what I like, and I use this outside of printing. Gaffer's tape is my go-to tape. I don't use duct tape because duct tape can leave a nasty residue after a certain amount of time. So I'm going to go ahead and use this, but I'm going to cut it down the middle, which I've done over here already. And you are also going to require the LCD screen. I purchased two because I go through them often. So they send you the screen and the wire separately. So you're going to have to put the wire in the screen itself, and then we're going to go and install it. So I'm going to go through all of these steps. This is just the beginning of it. And then later in the video, I'm going to go over some other cool things that I'm adding to my my printer to make it run nice and smooth. And one is a heater. I have a camera so I can keep an eye on it when I'm not inside. I don't want to have to come into this room and check on it. I just pull it up on my phone and I'm all good to go. And I'll have links to all of this in the description, including the heater, which is right on Peopoly's website. And this addition here, which was provided by a user in the Phenom group, and this just mounts right on the inside like this, and it has passages for air to get through, so that it keeps the inside at a consistent. Why am I putting a heater? Well, it's winter time now, and I want to make sure that my prints come out to the desired quality that I'm looking for. So thanks for joining me. Here we go. We're going to start dismantling some of this to get started. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the door off and make sure that you've taken the build plate off as well as your vat, because you're not going to need those. Plus it makes it a little bit lighter. You don't want to scratch the door at all. This is 2, 4, 6 screws, and I think it takes like a 2.5 millimeter Allen screw. So Stay tuned and I'll get to the next step. All right, so one of the first things we're going to do is remove this rear panel. By the way, this is a 2.5 millimeter Allen wrench. And there you go. And here's the cable that goes to your LCD screen. All right, next thing we're going to do is take off the bottom panel. I mean, we could reach this bottom piece here to remove, but for this video and its purposes, I'm going to expose this so that you can actually see what's underneath. What I did was I leaned it over very carefully, and it's resting on some padding in the front so that it's not laying down flat. So this is a 3 millimeter Allen screw. Some of these are in the feet. So it looks like they'll come out. You just have to turn it upside down. So I'm going to take these and loosen them up and fast forward this really quick. All right, we got the last screw done. Here's one of the feet coming off. So I guess just be really careful. All right, since we're going to be working closer with electronics, I went ahead and I put on some gloves because I don't want any of the oils from my skin getting on any of the electronics. So the only thing that we're concerned about right now is disconnecting this cable here, which goes directly to the LCD. This foam piece right here, you want to gently remove this. Okay? And then you could just set it aside. Make sure you set it someplace where you can reuse, get it again. If you have your own foam, you could use that also. And right along this edge here, on this bottom piece, is a lever. Now, also note that the wire on this side is red, and this is how you're going to put the new wire back in. So you just use your fingernail and you gently lift it up. You can see how that's lifted up now. And then it comes right off like that. Very simple. And next, our next feat is going to be to tilt this back up and then remove the LCD tape and some more of the screws, and then we're going to go ahead and remove the LCD altogether. So what I did really quick, it took a minute to do without putting the bottom panel on because I don't want to put that back on yet. I need to put the printer back in its upright position, but I'm not comfortable doing that with all of this here. So what I did was I just screwed the 4 feet back on. That way I know that I have clearance, enough clearance so that it doesn't affect any of the components from the underside. So that's something that you might want to consider when after you've removed the plate and the disconnected the cable. All right, so the next step is to remove the tape off of the LCD screen. This basically secures the screen on here as well as prevent any light from emitting from edges of the screen itself. So as I mentioned before, I put just the feet down on the bottoms just to ensure that the printer itself, when it's upright without the bottom panel on, I'm still protecting any of the components from the inside. So this is pretty simple to do. Take note when you're removing the tape. You see how much tape is actually on here and how much is touching the screen. There's not a whole lot on the screen itself. So I'm just going to remove this part. I'm going to be very careful when I remove this part here because it has the connector. And you can see there's some residue left by the tape. Your experience may be different, but I'm going to be using, like I said, gaffer's tape because it doesn't leave any residue, and it's you know, it's nice and thick. Let's see here. All right, it looks like I pretty much got it all. What I do have handy is some IPA and a microfiber towel to clean this around once I get the screen out, because I want to make sure that everything is clean. So I'm just going to pull it from here. And it'll be sticky. So just gently pull that out, and there you go. So here's the wire that's in between. So take note also that of how the wire is coming out and which side the screen is on. And so there you are right here. This is the other side of the screen. You'll see some what appears to be bubbles and whatnot. But you can't do anything about that. So, you know, you don't have to worry about it. This is the old one anyway. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to set this aside. I'm going to take a quick glance inside here and make sure that there's no dirt or any issues like that. No particulates inside here. And like I mentioned, I'm going to take some IPA. Not a whole lot, but just enough to clean it and get rid of any residue that's left from the tape from previous. All right, so I have my new LCD laid right here. It comes wrapped. It's got a front and a back indicator. So I'm going to be really careful to remove this wrapping here that they put it in. I try not to let this bend because I don't want to damage it at all. Interesting how they wrap it. All right. It seems pretty simple. All right, so right off the bat, what I'm seeing is that this is the top because of the surface, and then here's the bottom. And this is, it says the dots underneath is normal. So that's an indicator. Also, this is a film that you'll want to remove before you install it. This one also has a film. Mine has a tab right here that you pull. Some users that I've noticed, they don't like to remove theirs because they don't want the possibility of scratching on the screen. But then you have the possibility of what's called shadowing coming into play, and we don't want that to happen at all. So I would normally put like a microfiber towel down here on the bottom, but it is protected with the filament here on the bottom, or the film on the bottom. So right here is where you're going to install, and they've done this differently. Here's the used one. They've taped this up a little differently. Back looks up okay. So upon closer examination, they just made a little slit for me to make this really easy to install. Yours may be different, I don't know. I got mine from Matter Hackers, and I mean, Matter Hackers gets all their stuff from Peopoly, so. And there we go. So I just pulled that out like that. It was, like I said, it was already cut for me. I'm going to cover it with some additional tape. Here's the piece. This is why I left this connected, in case I forget. So it's kind of weird. It gets put in from this way. And the red is on right. So double R, red on right. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it in there. You can use your fingernails, if you have them, on each side. You can feel it go right in there. So that part is installed. So I have some additional gaffer's tape here that I'm going to use to secure it. It is kind of interesting how this goes this way. Let's see. That'll keep it from coming out. And when I look at the other one, it appears that the wires were bent over. So I'm going to go ahead and replicate that same scenario. Now I'm tempted to put another piece of tape here, just so that it doesn't move. There we go. So I put another piece of tape over it. Well, and I didn't press it too hard as to pinch the wires. So now this will go in here this way. But before I do that, I'm going to remember to remove this film. And I am wearing gloves, so I don't want to, because I don't want to put any, fingerprints on it. Okay, so I have my panel ready. Now, one thing you want to make sure is to pay close attention to how you remove it. You know, take pictures, or you know, you can just follow along this video if everything is pretty much the same for you. But with this flap, initially I was kind of confused on how to put this in. I thought the flap sat on top, but it actually it doesn't, and that's why this wire is on the outside, because this needs to sit flush in this groove right here so that you have a flat surface. So put the cable in first on through the front channel here, and you want to bend this flap, not all the way but perpendicular, and then at the same time just kind of find the groove here in the front and slowly set it in there, and you'll notice that it sits perfectly flat, which is good because that's what we want. So what the next step that we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to flip this back over and plug the other part of the cable back into the board. Now you'll be tempted to put the panel back on, but I recommend that you don't do that, because if something doesn't work, then you'll have to take it apart again. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. So, but before I do that, you don't want this to fall out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one piece of tape here. Short piece, but put another piece here, and then put another piece in the corner, and then when you flip it over, this won't fall out on you. All right, so we've got this bad boy laying on its front side once again. Now we want to make sure that the wire that's coming from the LCD screen, which you'll be able to see right at the base of the cavity here, you'll see where your wire's coming out, and you want to make sure that it's not, you know, laying on the heat sink or anything like that. You want it to be free of any issues. So this is the board here, as before. You want to be extremely careful not to touch anything else that's on here, especially the fans. If you notice that your fans have gained a lot of dirt and dust, I'm sure there's a way to go about cleaning them. I would check with Peopoly and see what they recommend. Now, here's the wire. Here's the red wire. It's on the right. So in this instance, right will be on this side. So if you're looking at the bottom, and you'll see this part right here, right's going to be over here. And you won't be able to put it in any other way. It just won't let you, because this locking mechanism only goes one way, and you won't be able to go towards the back side. So that's another indicator. So anyway, with the locking mechanism up, slide it in. You'll feel it click into place. Try not to push with the wires or the locking mechanism. You know, use your fingernail, or if you don't have nails, a wood, like a popsicle stick or a thin piece of plastic. Avoid using any metal. And once that's in there like that, you just push that down, or you just drop that down, and then you'll actually hear it click into place when you put that locking mechanism in there. And again, just make sure that this is just sitting here freely, and you should be good to go. And that's pretty much it. So now that we have this attached, our next step is going to be to bring this back up on its top side, and we're going to put on the gaffer tape surrounding the LCD screen, which prevents it from falling out and keeps the light from emitting through the gaps of the screen itself. Okay, so the Phenom is back to its upright position. I have given it some power, and I'm about to power it on. And as you can see here, I've removed these pieces right here that I put in earlier. This, we're going to turn this on, and what we're going to do is we're going to give the LCD screen a test, and that'll also help us determine where to place our tape. Now the nice thing is that I've updated, so you're not going to hear any fan noises. That's the extent of the noise that you're going to hear. So this is pretty straightforward and simple. You probably will hear some fan noise once this comes on, but once it comes on, you're going to hit the wrench, which says tool. Then you're going to hit the bullseye, which is in the middle top, and it says calibrate. And the next button, which will go into the test, will be when you hit the next button. So you press next, and you'll be able to see if your LCD screen is working. And it looks like I made a successful install. So I'm going to hit the back button right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this film off very gently so that this way none of the gaffer's tape sticks to it. And I'm still wearing gloves because I don't want any fingerprints on there. All right. So I've got 4 12-inch strips of tape ready. And so that way I can just put it on and it'll be all set and ready to go. So I'm going to go back here to calibrate, and I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to place the tape on. The first strip, I'm just going to walk you through it, and then I'll probably fast forward the other strips because it's not rocket science really. And next. I'm going to put on the bottom first. So you want to make sure that when you put this on that you don't cover the LCD screen, and you'll see it. You'll see a little space here that you can just put that right on there. Something else about gaffer's tape, which is really nice, is that when you slide your vat in, unlike the tape that was on there before or with electrical tape or duct tape, this doesn't have a sticky surface. Like, it's not going to stick just because it's shiny. This has a nice matte finish, and so your vat will just slide right in there. So I'm going to go bottom, top, and then sides. Now that's normal. If that happens to you, don't panic. There's a timer, and the timer will just shut it off. So All right, so there it is. Now I'm going to give it one more look and make sure that everything is covered. And this is done. Now the sides here, I measured these, but I forgot to measure the sides. The sides are shorter than the 12 inches that I measured previously. So, but this is it's a little intimidating at first, but once you've got it down, it's not so bad. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this off, and I'm going to unplug it because I have to turn it over, and I have to the foam piece that I took off earlier. I got to put that back on, and then I have to put the panels back on, and then I'll be right back. Okay, that wasn't so bad, now was it? I actually feel like I've accomplished quite a thing, and I was able to share it with you. And once again, I like to do things, and if I mess up, then that's my bad, and it saves you from having any issues in the process. So avoid this, avoid that. But I didn't really have any problems with this one. The only thing you want to make sure you do before you start printing again is to re-level your build plate. Otherwise, you're going to have some problems. I'm pretty happy with the gaffer's tape. I tried sliding in my my vat right in there. I didn't have any issues with it. One thing you want to make sure though, inside there's 2 screws that kind of stick out. At first I had the tape over it. You know, it was going beyond it. So you want to make sure that you don't, because I believe those work as stops so that the vat doesn't go back too far. That's one thing you want to do. The other thing I wanted to touch base on, it's not quite cold yet, and this room is heated, so I'm not sure if I'm going to need this or not, but I got it just in case. You can get this heater. It's listed for the Moai, but it works in this one as well. So I've got my camera in here, and I'll give you a link to this camera. There's actually a newer version of this. It doesn't look like that, but it works just as good, and it works at low light, so it picks it up. But this will mount right here. Actually, probably like that, and we'll just keep the area warm. It's a very subtle wind. It's not like a blast of air or any hot air or anything. And then I went ahead and I just printed this part, so that way when it's up against here, these passageways work. And then there's 2 mounting screws here. If you're not comfortable drilling into the side of your Phenom or whatever it is that you're going to use this on, you could just use double-sided tape and just put it on there. How is this being held on? There's 4 counterbores on this side because you've got 4 protruding Allen heads right here, and it just mounts right in there. And there's no need to screw it on or anything because this is going to hold it. You could glue it, whatever you wish. Totally up to you. But I went ahead and I picked it up, and I will leave links down in the description for that as well. Thanks for joining me. I had to do this right away because I've got a lot of prints I've got to do all of a sudden. So that encouraged me to get this done. Again, I'm getting the hang of these videos a little bit more. This is my 2nd video today. So I look forward to a little bit more enthusiasm in my videos. If you have any suggestions on how I can make them a little bit less boring or tedious, drop me some constructive criticism. Be kind, but I'll take any advice you can give me. Thanks again. Be safe, wash your hands, and stay warm, depending on where you're located. Thanks for watching.